My son, who refused to move out, demanded, "I need my own apartment, so you'd better start paying my rent." When I said no, he scoffed. "If you don't, I'll just live here forever." Minutes later, he found a legal eviction notice with his name on it. His face turned white as I smirked. "Looks like forever ends in 30 days. I, 58 male, live in Sacramento, California. I've worked as a mechanic for the city's light rail system for over 30 years. Blue collar all the way. I've never been rich, but I'm reliable. I fix what's broken, and I don't walk away from problems. I'm also a single dad. My wife died when our son was 12. Cancer. It was quick. 1 month she had a stomach ache, next month she was gone. That part isn't important for the story, but it explains why I held on to my son a little too tightly. His name is Lucas. He's 25 now. Still lives with me. Let me tell you something that took me too long to learn. There's a difference between supporting your child and enabling them. Lucas never moved out after high school. He did 1 semester at community college, dropped out, said school wasn't for him. That was fine. Not everyone is made for it. I told him to find work. And he did, for a while. Fast food, some holiday retail, landscaping in the summer. But nothing lasted. By 22, he stopped trying altogether. He said he was focusing on his mental clarity. Whatever that meant. What it really meant was he stayed in his room, sleeping till noon, playing video games until 3 a.m., and complaining that life was too stressful to handle. Now, I want to be very clear. I'm not judging anyone with mental health struggles. I offered him counseling. I offered to pay for it. He went twice, said it didn't help. I begged him to go back. He refused. So I made rules. $200 a month rent. Keep your room clean. Help around the house. Apply for jobs, at least 2 per week. Guess how long that lasted? 2 months. Maybe. He stopped paying rent first. Then dishes started piling up in the sink. His laundry sat on the couch for days. The garbage? I'll take it out later. Always. Later. When I pushed, he'd snap. I'm not a kid, stop bossing me around. But when I told him to act like an adult, he'd say, then stop treating me like a tenant. I'm your son. It was like I was arguing with fog. Nothing stuck. But I kept trying. I made excuses for him. Told myself he just needed more time. Told friends he was figuring things out. Told myself this was what love looked like. Until one day it wasn't. The day he flipped the switch. It was a Saturday. I came home from work around 5 p.m. My back hurt, my hands were covered in grease, and I had 2 bags of groceries digging into my arms. I walked in through the front door and there he was, sprawled on the couch in sweatpants, playing Xbox, pizza crusts on the coffee table. Didn't say hi. Didn't offer to help. Just glanced at me and said casually, "Hey, I need my own apartment, so you'd better start paying my rent." I blinked. Thought I misheard him. "What?" I said. He repeated it. "Yeah, it's not good for my mental health to live here anymore. I need my own space. But I can't afford it, so you'll have to cover it until I'm stable." I stood there in the living room, holding 2 bags of groceries and 5 decades of patience. "Lucas, you don't even pay rent here," I said. He shrugged. "This place has bad energy." I asked him if this was a joke. "No. I'm serious. If you don't help me get out, then I'll just live here forever." That's when it hit me. He wasn't asking. He was threatening. If I didn't fund his freedom, he'd make me his prison. There was no emotion behind it. No shame. No hesitation. Just cold, entitled certainty. And something inside me broke. The decision. I didn't argue. Didn't yell. I didn't even respond. I just went to my room, shut the door, and sat on my bed for a while. I thought about all the nights I stayed up with him as a kid when he had nightmares. Thought about the mornings I packed his lunch. The late-night drives to pick him up from parties. The fights we had when he turned 17 and called me, controlling, for setting curfews. I thought about how many times I'd said yes when I should have said no. And then I stood up. Opened my laptop. Googled. How to evict adult child in California. Turns out, there's a process. You can evict someone, even your own kid, if they've lived with you more than 30 days. It's called a 30-day notice to quit. It's legal. It's final. I printed it out. Signed my name. And slid it under his door. The explosion. It took about 4 minutes. "What the hell is this?" he screamed. I was in the kitchen, putting away groceries. He stormed in, waving the paper. His face was red, eyes wild. "Are you kicking me out? Are you serious right now?" I didn't flinch. You told me if I didn't pay your rent, you'd live here forever. Looks like forever ends in 30 days. He stood there, frozen. Then he laughed, nervous, fake. You can't be serious. This is illegal. I'm your son. I calmly told him it was perfectly legal. I'd already spoken to a lawyer at work. You have until April 1st, I said. After that, I filed for formal eviction. He called me every name you can imagine. Stormed off. Slammed his door. I let him. Next day, he was gone when I woke up. Came home late. Didn't speak to me. He started trying to guilt-trip me. Left sticky notes on the fridge. Thanks for nothing, Dad. Guess family means nothing to you. Hope you enjoy living alone with your guilt. I ignored it. Then came the phone calls, from his aunt, his cousin, even my own sister. He's struggling. You're being too harsh. I told them the full story. Most backed off. 1 or 2 didn't. I stopped answering those calls. Week 2 he started. Trying. Cleaned the kitchen. Took out the trash. Said he was sorry. If he came off rude. But it was too late. I wasn't going to fall for crumbs. I needed change, not apologies. Week 3, I saw him on Indeed. Heard him on the phone with someone about a room for rent. He was trying to fix it now. That's good. But it doesn't erase the damage. You can't use people as lifeboats then blame them when they start to sink too. Where we are now. It's day 23. He hasn't found a place yet. Or a job. But the clock is ticking. I haven't spoken much to him since that day. He walks around the house like a ghost. He used to stomp and yell. Now he's quiet. I think it's finally sinking in. He asked me last night if I'd consider, pausing, the eviction if he promised to pay rent again. I said no. Because this isn't about rent. It's about respect. He crossed the line. And now we're both living with the consequences. After Lucas asked me to pause the eviction, I said no. Calmly, firmly. He didn't freak out like last time. No yelling. No notes on the fridge. Instead, he got clever. He started acting nice. Helpful. Quiet. Almost like the old Lucas from years ago. He'd clean the living room. Ask if I wanted coffee. Cooked dinner twice, cheap pasta, but still. At first, I thought maybe it was growth. But something didn't sit right. His smile felt off. Too forced. Like a kid playing grown-up. Then I noticed his energy shifted. No more job applications. No more Craigslist roommate listings. His phone calls stopped. No more Zoom interviews, no more quiet talking behind the door. It was like he'd decided something. And I was right. The twist. On day 26, I came home from work and noticed my office door was cracked open. I always lock it. Always. Inside, my desk drawer was pulled out. The one with my financial files. Tax documents, mortgage records, even some old passwords I've been meaning to change. All still there. But shuffled. Not in order. Papers bent. Like someone had looked through them in a hurry. I didn't say anything that night. I just went to bed with the door locked and my gut twisted. Next morning I checked my credit. Clean. For now. Then I checked the Wi-Fi log. Sure enough, someone logged into my bank's website 3 days ago at 2:42 a.m. Not from my laptop. Not from my phone. From his. The confrontation. I didn't yell. I waited until he came out of his room. He was in the kitchen, pouring cereal like nothing happened. I stood at the counter and asked him flat out. Did you try to access my bank account? He looked up, shocked. For half a second, just half, I saw guilt. Then he tried to flip it. What? No. Why would I do that? Are you serious right now? I kept my voice low. I have logs, Lucas. IP address. Time. It was your phone. He paused. Then said the thing that finally made me lose it. Well, I was just checking to see if you could afford to help me. I wasn't going to take anything. I just needed to know. Let that sink in. He hacked into my account to see if I could help him. Like I was a vending machine, and he just wanted to know if I still had change. I told him to leave that night. He said, You legally can't. You already gave me 30 days. He was right. I knew the law. And he knew I wouldn't physically drag him out. But that wasn't even the worst part. The twist inside the twist. Later that night, I heard voices outside the house. Looked through the blinds. Lucas was on the porch, talking to a woman I'd never seen before. Mid-20s, lots of bags, looked irritated. Then I saw her carry 2 duffel bags inside. I opened the door. Who is this? I asked. Lucas, smiling now, like he'd won something, said, This is Melanie. She's just staying here a few days. She's going through stuff. Don't worry, we'll stay out of your way. I looked at her. She wouldn't make eye contact. No, I said. She's not staying here. This isn't a shelter. This isn't your apartment. You don't get to invite people here. Lucas shrugged. She's not moving in. Just a few nights. You're not heartless, are you? Oh, but I was done being soft. I called a lawyer friend the next morning. Explained everything. He told me if she wasn't on the notice, and she moved in after it was served, I could call it trespassing. So I did. Called the police. They came out. Talked to all of us. Melanie was polite. Said she didn't know she wasn't allowed. They told her to leave. She did. Quiet, no drama. Lucas? He exploded. Said I embarrassed him. Said I was a cruel, paranoid old man. I said he brought this on himself. I told him, You want your own life? Then stop stealing from mine. Now. It's day 29. He hasn't packed. He hasn't apologized. He's been locked in his room for hours. I don't know what's coming tomorrow. I don't know if he's planning to leave or planning to fight this. But I have the paperwork ready. If he stays past midnight, I file formal eviction with the court. This time, there are no takebacks. He made his choice. Now I make mine. I got home from work and noticed something strange. The house was quiet. Like too quiet. No sounds of video games. No thumping footsteps. No microwave beeps. I checked his room. Empty. Bed stripped. Closet open. Computer gone. Drawers cleared. No note. No goodbye. Just gone. I felt a weird mix of relief and dread. It was over. But something felt off. I walked the house. Checked the garage. Even peeked under the crawl space. Nothing. I actually laughed out loud. Like a crazy person. It was finally done. I poured myself a glass of whiskey and sat down on the porch for the first time in months without tension hanging in the air. Then my phone buzzed. A text from Lucas. I left like you wanted. Don't worry, I'll figure something out. Hope you're happy. That part wasn't the twist. The twist came 2 hours later, when my doorbell rang. The twist, the return. It was around 9:45 p.m. I opened the door, and there was Melanie. Again. She looked miserable. Hair messy, one duffel bag, red around the eyes. She didn't even say hi. Can I just crash on the couch? Just for tonight. Lucas isn't answering his phone. I stood there for a long second. Then I noticed something in her hand. A key. My house key. I asked her where she got it. She looked down. Then said the one thing that made my stomach twist. He gave it to me a few days ago. Said he might not stay, but I'd be safe here if I needed a place. He made a copy. Without my permission. Gave it to someone I barely knew. After I had her removed once. I told her no. Firmly. I said she wasn't allowed inside. She didn't argue this time. Just turned and walked back down the steps, duffel bag swinging. Day 31, the real twist. You'd think that would be the end, right? Wrong. I got a notice taped to my front door. From the City of Sacramento Housing Department. It was a tenant harassment complaint. Filed by Lucas. He accused me of constructive eviction, denial of basic utilities, retaliatory behavior, and abuse of landlord power. It was complete garbage, of course. I have photos of his room in good condition. I never turned off power, water, or Wi-Fi. I followed the law step by step. But now I have to show up for a hearing in 2 weeks. He's trying to drag me into a legal mess. Maybe to stall. Maybe to get revenge. Maybe just because he thinks he can wear me down. And the worst part? I found out he's staying at Melanie's parents' house. The same girl he barely knew. She begged them to let him crash on their couch because his dad kicked him out for no reason. I got a voicemail from her dad the next day. You're a real piece of work. Kicking out your own kid? Hope the city takes your house. I didn't respond. I just saved the voicemail. I may need it. The most recent development. Last night, someone tried to get into the house around 1 a.m. Didn't break anything. But the back doorknob was jiggled. I checked the cameras. Can't see a face clearly, but the build? The walk? Looked like Lucas. I called the police. Filed a report. Changed the locks. Again. I also bought new deadbolts and a ring cam for the side yard. He's not coming back in. Not without a warrant. What's next? I'm meeting with a real lawyer this week. Not just a friend. A full legal consult. Because now this isn't just eviction. This is harassment. And if he keeps escalating, this could become criminal. I never wanted this. I wanted him to grow up. He wanted me to give up. I guess we'll see who breaks first. After Lucas filed the complaint with the city, I did what I had to do. I hired a real eviction attorney. We built a clean case. Every text, every note, every recorded voicemail. I had the police report from the late-night doorknob attempt. I had security footage. I had screenshots from the IP log when he accessed my bank account. My lawyer told me something that stuck. He's trying to drag you emotionally because he knows he's already lost legally. That felt right. Still, part of me kept hoping. Not for forgiveness. Not even for peace. Just some sign that the kid I raised was still in there. The one who used to ask me to stay 5 more minutes at bedtime. The one who cried when his mom died. I didn't get that. Instead, I got the blowout. The housing department scheduled a mediation meeting. We both had to show up. Neutral ground. Community center. Beige walls. Folding chairs. Nobody wanted to be there. He showed up late, wearing a hoodie and sunglasses indoors, like a low-rent movie villain. Melanie came too. Sat in the back, arms crossed. Avoided eye contact. The city rep opened the meeting by summarizing his complaint: harassment, illegal eviction, emotional trauma. My lawyer handed over our folder of evidence. Lucas didn't look at it. He just sat back, smirking. My dad doesn't want to admit he's a narcissist. He controls people until they can't breathe. That's what this is about. I didn't respond. I kept my hands in my lap. The rep asked him what exactly I'd done to make the home unlivable. He listed things that never happened. Said I screamed at him daily. Said I'd shut off the Wi-Fi to punish him. Said I'd threatened him physically. The rep turned to me. Mr. Carter, do you have a response? I looked at Lucas. You gave a stranger a key to my house. You tried to get into my bank account. You stayed rent-free for 3 years, then demanded I pay for your apartment. You crossed a line I can't uncross. He stood up then. Hands shaking. I did everything I could to survive in that house. You just couldn't handle not being in control. Then Melanie jumped in, voice rising. You used him as a crutch. After his mom died, you dumped all your emotions on him. You don't know how to be alone, so now you're punishing him for needing help. I stared at her. You've known him what? 3 months? She opened her mouth, then closed it. The rep ended the meeting right there. Said they'd make a decision within 5 days. Lucas stormed out, shoving a chair as he left. The next day, I got a call. Case dismissed. City sided with me. Not enough evidence. My documentation was too clean. They thanked me for my cooperation. I should have felt victorious. But I didn't. I felt hollow. He showed up again. Middle of the day. I was working on the car in the driveway. Hoodie up, same look in his eye. So that's it, huh? You won. I wiped my hands, stood up. I didn't win, Lucas. I lost my son. He said nothing. Then he finally dropped it. You know what I remember the most? After Mom died, you stopped hugging me. You got distant. Cold. And I was just a kid. I didn't know what to do. His voice cracked. You locked yourself in the garage with tools and left me alone with a silent house. That hit like a sledgehammer. Because he wasn't wrong. I'd been angry at the world. At God. At myself. And I'd built walls I thought were protecting him, but maybe I was just hiding inside them. I walked closer. For a second, I thought maybe we'd break through. But then he added, but that doesn't excuse what you've done now. And just like that, the wall came back. Then I guess we're both guilty, I said. He looked down. I'm not coming back. I know. He turned and walked away. Didn't look back. Melanie's dad called again. Left another message. Apologized this time. Said Lucas left their place too. Said he took money from their kitchen safe. They didn't press charges. Just told him to go. Said he was couchsurfing now. No job. No plan. I haven't heard from him since. I sit on the porch a lot now. Quiet house. No yelling. No footsteps. No slammed doors. Just peace. But also an ache. I don't feel angry anymore. I feel like someone who watched a train crash in slow motion, someone who pulled the brake too late and still lost everything. Do I regret kicking him out? No. Do I wish I'd found a different way? Yeah. But maybe that was the only way. Maybe some people need to hit the bottom before they climb. Or maybe they never do. I was a father who tried to be a friend. Then I became a landlord who had to be a stranger. Now I'm just a man who gave someone too many chances, and finally gave myself one. If Lucas ever knocks on my door again, I'll open it. But this time, I won't let him live here. He has to build something of his own. Even if it starts with nothing.